lot of law enforcement agencies are struggling with low morale, recruitment challenges, and a tarnished reputation. If you're ready to transform your agency, to strengthen your team, and build trust in your community, we're here to help. The Elevate Your Call to Service podcast shares a revolutionary approach to leadership development. Join us and discover how to elevate your leadership journey and your agency to new heights of excellence.
We're your hosts, Michael and Kathy McIntosh. Mike is a retired sheriff and current bureau chief in the Denver metro area with nearly 40 years of law enforcement experience.
Kathy is a business and branding expert with a unique perspective on the human side of law enforcement.
Together, we share a powerful blend of practical experience and insightful roadmaps to elevate your call to service. Welcome back to the Elevate Your Call to Service podcast. We've been talking about the fact that in a lot of police organizations, there are teams that run like well-oiled machines, right? They work in unison toward their mission. They feel like they're accomplishing really great things. They just feel like they're on fire. This is a really great time in their history. And then there are teams that aren't necessarily doing so well. These are the ones who seem to wander aimlessly. And you've said a few times recently, it's like a ship without a rudder. There's no sense of direction. There's no sense of purpose. There's no sense of common mission that drives them forward. And there's a clear distinction between those two types of teams. Sometimes it's organization-wide, but sometimes it's just the micro teams inside of an organization that are off kilter. And if you wanted to find a recipe for weakening a team, you really would not have to try very hard because there are so many teams that are already about halfway there. They have so sabotaged their leadership, their organization, their teams by systems that are so toxic that even the best officers start to quit. And you and I hear those stories all the time. They're heartbreaking. And we're not talking about leaving because it's a dangerous profession or because public scrutiny is awful. We're talking about people who leave because internal corrosion is squashing their performance, their morale, their drive to accomplish the purpose.
Right. It is really sad. It's something that for the years that I've been in law enforcement, I've seen it ebb and flow. And like you said, it's, some of that is agency-wide, some of it's division-wide, and some of it's just different teams. But we've all seen this playbook for destruction. Our cops feel like cogs in broken machines. Mm-hmm. And at worst, it's really dismantling the department from the inside. It's bad enough that we have outside pressures, but this dismantles an agency from the inside. Mm-hmm. Teams are undermined by practices when people put politics over people, mm-hmm. or leaders put politics over people, mm-hmm. Silence over honesty, or compliance over service. The result in this profession is that it bleeds and teeters on collapse. It's an ebb and flow. So when you see a division that's drained of morale, there are common components that you can point to. You can look at it and you can see it. And we're going to unwrap some of those today about how toxic systems can undermine teams.
I want to take a look at how officers feel. I'm the emotional feeling one of us, right? Especially. So I just want to take a look at what I see and the sometimes the way that I perceive what's going on with a lot of the officers that we've been around over the years. They feel like they're just buried in vague directives. They feel like every decision that they make is a gamble and the risks could actually be career ending. Public scrutiny is part of that. It demands perfection all the time, 100% of the time, 24/7. It demands perfection, and that's hard to live up to. It's impossible to live up to. And officers can start to feel like they're hung out to dry when they make a mistake. That's not a pleasant way to live.
No, it really isn't. And then let's stop and take a look at where their leaders are at, right? Too often they're hiding in offices or churning out memos or giving vague directives. They're not on scene where the officers are at, but trying to make comments about the work that was done, and they weren't even there. And then we get to, slashing training budgets, or we squash a team's potential or starve them of resources, knowledge, and skill set that really seem to put the blame on them when things go south. And then we have this staffing shortage, or teams are left without all of their team members. And so overtime starts to ramp up. And this rips the officers from their families until really they get to the point to where they're too exhausted to stand for change. That's how you break people.
For sure.
Officers who signed up to serve end up feeling like they're prisoners. They're trapped in a team dynamic that punishes courage or smothers innovation, and it really does nothing but erase their purpose. And when we've reached that, it's really no wonder why so many end up walking away from the profession. Not because they can't hack it, but because the system that system is designed to make them fail.
Yeah. And when a team's purpose starts to be undermined, officers can start to feel betrayed, like they're abandoned by the leaders who prioritize those projects over loyalty. They feel like they're exposed. They feel like they're demoralized, right? They could start to feel paralyzed because when they don't have clear direction, there's this constant fear of punishment that makes every single action feel like a trap where, wow, are they going to get caught in something horrible this time? That leads to burnout quickly. That overtime that you talked about, and pair that with the zero wellness support, can drain their energy. It can make them feel hopeless. A lot of times officers feel silenced because honesty sometimes is punished. You're not allowed to speak up because that's pushing against the machine, and that's not the way we do things around here. And it forces officers to swallow their morals, their principles, or face retaliation. These are the ugly things that happen. And they feel then like they have no choice but to leave, to exit the profession. And as you said, it's sometimes the system or the leadership structure that drives out even the best people, and it just leaves behind a shell of a department.
Right. And as you're talking about that, it just kind of goes down that path, that road, that if you want to collapse a team, just continue doing that, right? It's that
same old.
The same, yeah. Just keep doing that, and don't sit back and assess what's going on. Just keep doing what you've been doing. Putting people over plans can stop the sabotage and rebuild a profession without severing it. So I think it's really important to not let destruction win. I mean, you have to get to a point where you say, we're not going to let this continue on our team, in our division, in our organization. And you do that by leading with purpose, leading with trust and service. That's how we replace these toxic systems. That's how we restore the heart of leadership. Putting people over plans can mend the damage and start to rebuild that profession into something worth serving. It's time to stop letting these missteps hold us back, right? These kind of mistakes happen in small teams within agencies. And if we go and let them be unchecked, that's just the way that guy leads, or that's just the way that this gal runs her teams. If we let them go unchecked, they can begin to permeate the entire organization. So we're here to share solutions and not to point fingers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we also have to keep a glimpse on leaders train future leaders. And so when you have somebody who's toxic, whether they know it or not, they're training up the next generation to come behind them and to continue to be toxic. And so we can stop that by switching the paradigm, right? Putting our people first and really diving into what you love to call peopleship. And I'm reminded as you're talking, and this is a little bit off topic, but um, it's just one of those messages that just keeps running through my head over and over again. It's like it's on every podcast, it's in every sermon I listen to. It's just all around me, and that's how destructive our words can be. Whether we say them to someone's face or we say that behind their back, how destructive words can be. And when we start tearing someone down, um, it might seem like, oh my gosh, I can't go back and fix that. But there is a way to fix it. And it's starting today to speak truth instead of destructive words over someone, and to speak things of building each other up and letting each other know and encouraging and supporting. And that's kind of the same premise that we're talking about here. When you've got a toxic situation and a system that's in place, instead of just letting it continue and letting that snowball just keep rolling down the hill, you can stop and say, okay, today's the day that I'm going to start to make a difference. And I'm not going to be perfect at it. I'm not going to be, a great leader tomorrow when I was a horrible leader yesterday, but I can do some things different today that help me get better tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that. And I can start to reverse that snowball situation and make an improvement within my agency, within my team.
Yeah, and I would say just, to kind of piggyback on that a little bit, one of the things that I've also noticed that we have a propensity to do in law enforcement is to continue to reach back and say, yeah, but 6 years ago you made this mistake, or 10 years ago this was your reputation.
Mm-hmm.
And it really doesn't allow for mistakes. It doesn't allow for growth. It doesn't allow you to move forward. And as leaders, we have to understand that mistakes are going to be made. They may not have been all in at some point, but that doesn't mean that people can't change.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that people don't want to be mentored, that they don't want to be led. And we have an opportunity to really build into people, and give them that shot to really build that. And we've talked about it in other podcasts, to really start to build that brand, that reputation,
Mm-hmm.
in a positive way. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back to those words that we say about other people. And we need to be looking at how we can affirm them, and help them. It starts with those small wins, and we've talked about that. Move forward in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay. So let's unwrap some of the mistakes and share some of the practical solutions that we offer through our leadership training to put teams back on track, to start to build morale instead of tearing it down, and to start to boost longevity in the career of officers who are so great at what they do. Over the next few minutes, we're just going to talk through some of the foundations of our training program. And these are the points that we guide our coaching clients through on a much deeper level than we're going to get into today, of course. And we've seen some incredible transformation. So, how to take a team that's broken and lead it back to health is really the premise of this podcast episode today. And we're about to dive into how to turn things around step by step, one step at a time, and develop leaders who strengthen teams for the future. Teams are broken when leadership mistakes like prioritizing plans over people take hold. They leave officers feeling handled instead of inspired by engaging leaders, right?
Right. Yeah. And to us, and we've talked a lot about what that really means, and it boils down simply to, are you leading or are you managing,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
If you're leading, then you're bringing the people along with you. You're
Mhm.
leading people, not projects. Um, and and again, managing a project, managing your shift, all of those things are incredibly important. We don't get the job done without managing those, but it's how we manage those. Are we
And not
just
forsaking leading as
e-
well.
exactly, yeah. So it's making sure that we're focused on the people, those that are present and invested. We guide our teams with heart. We give them newfound permission to be part of the process, right? To move forward in that, and it's not just barking out orders. It's taking that person on a journey, and that's really just being that leading versus managing piece.
Hmm. Another mistake is that there's an erosion of the sense of purpose that people feel, and it's causing officers to feel like they're reduced to chasing statistics instead of serving communities, right? They're really just looking at the task list instead of the people that they serve.
Right, and it goes back to that mission and vision. It's really important, and all agencies have a mission and a vision statement, and we've talked about before. Some of those are really good. Very fortunate that that we have a great one where I work, and it's something that in my at my level, I really get behind. It's something that is kind of that driving force as
Mhm.
to how I lead the division that I'm over. But it's really hard at times for those to hit the teams. So the team that's going to work tonight on graveyards, sometimes it's difficult for them to make that connection between what the overarching mission and vision of an agency is and what their role is in that. So what we really want to do is make sure that we ignite a clear, compelling impact statement or mission that really shows every officer how what they do in the middle of the night or on swing shift or on day shift, what they do transforms the lives and strengthens the community, and
Mhm.
that's what it's about, right? It and believe it or not, it puts the why we got into this job. I've been on thousands of interview panels, and I've watched thousands of cadets stand up. Why did you get into law enforcement? Because I want to help people. It puts that why back in their purpose.
Mhm. Mhm. How about when teams are weakened because of a lack of clarity, where they feel confused or hesitant because they don't quite know what the clear directives are?
Yeah, and that's we have those in our plan. To us, that's that clear communication piece.
Mhm.
It's really ensuring that you deliver intentional, transparent guidance to your team so that they can feel empowered, so that they can act decisively and confidently. So when they're out there making decisions, what we don't want them to do is second guess the decision that they're making. We want them to feel confident and decisive in the decisions that they make, so that they know if they're making those types of decisions, that those are coming from our vision and from our mission. And the only way that happens is if we communicate that clearly, if we set those expectations clearly.
Teams also suffer when leaders might hide behind titles and they dodge accountability. They lose respect without even realizing it. They think their leadership reputation is one thing, and the team really is like, no, that's not what we're getting out of this leader at all.
Yeah, that whole leadership reputation piece, that self-awareness, it's important, really important as leaders that we have a real clear picture of how we lead, and know what our strengths are. And it's really kind of listening to what others are saying, because they may not just come right out and tell you, but they're going to give you clues. There's going to be head nods, or there's going to be eye rolls, and if you're getting eye rolls, that
You might want to pay attention to those.
if there's something that you just said and then you get an eye roll, then is it just that deputy, or is it the group that's feeling that but didn't do that? So it's really leaning into those situations. It's paying attention, and it's acting with integrity, and it's earning the trust of your team members. Because when you do that and you start to have that reputation that, Macintosh is going to do what Macintosh said he was going to do, you can typically lead that team through just about anything because they trust you. And that's where you need to get to.
Yeah, and you're definitely moving right into our next point. And the teams can feel fractured when they don't trust each other, when they're not sure that their leader has their back. They're not sure that their leader's going to do what they say they're going to do. How do we combat that?
Yeah. And it's, it's first internal, right? Making sure that I'm doing what I need to do as the leader to be able to go out and lead. And once you've got the internal piece set where you need to have it, and that's both knowing what your strengths are and knowing the areas that you need to work and where you're going to need some help. And it's being honest about that, right? It's not everybody's going to know everything. So, what do we know and what don't we know, and be transparent when it comes to that. And when you get there, you start to build that trust in your team, and you really have the opportunity to create championship teams at that point. And that's where, those championship teams, you look at every one of them, whether it's in sports or whether it's on the battlefield, in military engagements. They had the trust in each other, and they had the trust in their leader to be able to accomplish the task that were set before them. And that's where you start to see those championship teams develop.
For sure. How about the burnout that happens when wellness is just overlooked or ignored, and it's treated as a lower priority issue than something that's essential?
Yeah, unfortunately, in our business, it's just not been top of mind, right?
And I think that tide's turning.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. I think that we're now in law enforcement moving in a direction where we're finally getting it and understanding that really we need that whole person. If we have the expectation that they're going to do their job well, that means that they need to be taking care of the whole person, right? Whether it's the family, the spiritual, the emotional, those things need to be first and foremost. And I think that if you have healthy teams, it's a lot easier to maintain a well team from a wellness and a resilience perspective. But if you don't, that erosion that we talked about at the beginning of this podcast, that erosion can start permeating itself, and it has the ability to really go through and start to eroding fast. So it's making sure that we prioritize our mental health.
Yeah.
We provide resources, and we model that self-care.
Yeah.
To show that resilience can fuel service.
You and I had lunch recently with someone who told us that there was an agency, and it was actually a municipality who started offering more and more mental health benefits, and realized that their expenses in the mental health arena had something like quadrupled, which is hard to take as someone who's in finance. But the municipality leaders were just overjoyed and thrilled that people were actually taking advantage of the benefit that was offered to them. And so there's a lot of reasons that we can give ourselves to not take care of our mental health or our physical health. We need to squash those because people are behind you, cheering you on to do that. The last thing I want to talk about is the impact that teams lose when leadership starts to feel like it's self-serving or focused on personal gain instead of collective good. And by collective, obviously, I mean the agency, the officers, and the community as well.
Yeah, and I think that the interesting thing in all of that is you may not think that they see it, but they see it, right? They absolutely see that leader that isn't leading selflessly, that is leading selfishly. And so it's really important as leaders that we do lead selflessly, that it's that service-driven leadership.
Yes.
That we are, when you get to the point where you can say we are working for those that we are leading, that's when we know that that we've arrived. It's the work that the team's doing. It's not the work that I'm doing that is making us successful.
Good. Well, we've put together a plan, an acronym as we're known to do, and it's called ASSESS, and it's a framework to start to rebuild teams by bringing in some outside expertise, and that's what we do. We love to go into agencies and give coaching, mentoring, encouragement, workshops, or even coach some of the leaders. So I'm going to walk through the acronym, and then I want you to explain the acronym.
Sure.
A is audit. Then we have strategize, support, evaluate, sustain, and strengthen.
Yeah. So, audit. What we want to do is audit the performance, right? Sometimes you can't see the forest through the trees, that phrase, right? So hire an external team, like us, but hire somebody to come in and really do a thorough evaluation of your department's leadership practices. And in that, you can identify gaps in communication, gaps in trust, and really see the things that may be weakening their teams.
And then strategy.
So the strategy is really working with these professions to analyze the audit findings, right? So after you audit, then you want to work with the agency to really go over the audit findings. And then the thing that I think is unique about us is we develop a tailored plan to the agency, addressing the specific things that are going on in their agency.
How about support with coaching?
Yeah, and we even utilize this, right? I mean, there's times that we have our own coaches,
yes,
that help guide us, and I think that it's important at times to have somebody outside of the team that can provide that ongoing one-on-one guidance to the leadership to enhance their skills, make sure that they're communicating clearly, and that they really are working on building that trust within their team.
E is evaluate.
Yeah, you use the team's feedback and the analytics to regularly assess the improvements in the team dynamics. And look at the officer retention, look at the community impact, and you adjust then your strategies as needed.
S, again, is sustained growth. There's a lot of S's in this one.
There is a lot. So you want to implement long-term mentoring from the external team to maintain momentum. Eventually, you want to be able to foster a culture where officers are empowered and feel supported for the long haul.
And then strengthen those teams.
Yep.
Ultimately, that's our goal.
That's our goal, right? We want to leverage the external team's expertise to build that resiliency in the high-performing team so that they finally are doing that on their own. And it provides an opportunity to have that united, shared mission where they're ready to serve with excellence.
So good. So good. Well, teams suffer often because of all too common leadership mistakes. When you're in the midst of things, you may think I'm the only one going through this. No, it's very common throughout the profession, throughout leadership as a whole. It doesn't even have to be in law enforcement. But as a leader, we have the power to break the cycle right now. And we are ending this episode, as we like to do, with a challenge. So what would you say are activities that our listeners might be able to do this week to start turning that tide and making a difference, to stop weakening that team and start embracing some of the life-giving principles of putting people over plans?
Yeah, I think that it really starts with spending some time reflecting on what it is that we've talked about over the course of the last 30 minutes. And then bringing your team together. It could just be a 15-minute briefing to share some clear service-driven mission statement. Engage them in that. It can be something as simple as we protect and uplift our community every day. And then we have to show the officer how what they do on a daily basis as part of that team accomplishes that mission, right? It reconnects them to their purpose, and ensures that their vision doesn't start to fade. So you can give one clear directive. Just make sure that, increase community outreach efforts to build trust with residents this week. And then ensure that we reach out to an external expert. Have somebody go through the assess model, whether that's individually, because sometimes you may be in a position where I don't have the ability or the power to reach out to somebody external and bring them into the organization. So find a coach, find somebody that you can talk to, and start to put these practices into place.
Good. When we can commit to correcting some of the missteps that we've made, we're starting then to lead people, not just manage tasks. And we're going to take up the challenges that you've offered this week. So let's strengthen our teams. Let's boost morale. Let's make the profession of law enforcement a force that is good and noble and one that lasts through future generations.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Ready to build a stronger team, improve your reputation, strengthen officer safety, and recruit top talent? Visit us at leleaders.com and schedule a call with us today. We'd love to discuss how our coaching programs, workshops, and keynote addresses can help you build proactive leaders in a reactive profession.
In the meantime, if you like what you've heard today, we'd love your 5-star review on Apple Podcasts.